They called you invisible, quiet, incidental, a footnote in their gossip-soaked narrative. All their whispers danced around your name, but never dared to give you center stage. That stage was theirs, bright, loud, crowded with validation seekers. But while they chased spotlights, you were crafting a script of presence so sharp it cut through the noise without an audition. You didn't ask to be seen, you became unavoidable. And now, they can't stop talking about you. Not because you crave attention, but because your presence forced the room to lean in and listen. Imagine the thrill, that electric current, when someone realizes the story they wrote about you just flipped. Now every room has a hushed gasp when your name echoes. People lean forward in conversations, eyes widening as if they've just seen a ghost walk by wearing you. That's the power of becoming the main character. It's not the applause, it's their anticipation. They're not watching your highlight reel, they're watching your weight. Your aura is no longer part of the setting. You've become the setting. You see, being the main character doesn't require permission. It requires alignment. While they were busy adjusting personas to chase trends, you were refining your backbone. You walked into rooms without asking permission to exist. You carried standards that whispered doctrines so compelling they rewrote relationships and reputations in silence. Now they talk about you not because you demand the mic, but because you drew the stage map without them knowing. Your life became a broadcast they never subscribed to. But now they can't switch off. People whisper possible backstories. Where did they come from? What do they eat? Who trained them to move like that? But you don't have an origin story. You have an origin mission, a self-claimed covenant to climb while they argued about where they should be. Your strategy wasn't about winning approval, it was about building gravity. Now they orbit you. They don't know how you pulled it off, but they feel it. Your presence is now the sun around which their gossip revolves. They used to highlight your mistakes, replay your worst moments, frame your past as prophecy. But main characters don't collapse, they evolve. The same people who cataloged your stumbles now recap your rise like spoilers they can't ignore. The irony is delicious. Your comeback isn't in them admitting it, it's in the hush when someone says your name, and the room collectively remembers what growth looks like. They can't help but whisper it out loud. They did it. You didn't need a megaphone, you just needed context. People talk about you because they sense the distance you walked in silence. They don't just see your arrival. They feel everything that preceded it. Your work ethic, your alignment, your stillness in chaos. That's what frightens the loudest ones. They realize that volume never carried you. You carried volume. And now they're stuck retelling your story, over and over, like it's a sermon they can't unhearth. In psychology, humans are drawn to narrative arcs. We crave protagonists who overturn expectations. You became that protagonist, not accidental, built through choices that defied comfort and composted hurt into momentum. You stepped into your story as its hero, not the hero they cast you as, but the one you believed you could be. They're still trying to catch up, to edit their version, but the real version is written in your bones. And that's what they're talking about late at night. How you wrote your fate through behavior, not hashtags. You heard their laughter when they thought you were failing. You heard their sarcasm pitched like darts, but when the dominoes fell, they discovered your silence was simply strategy. You were marinating in solitude, sharpening skills, letting ego drown in routine. Now, their laughter feels thin because your presence speaks volumes. You are the proof that slow alchemy outweighs empty noise. They don't say it. It burns in every retell. Now they reference your milestones as benchmarks. Did you hear what they did? Becomes the conversation starter. You're not trend, you're transition. Their empty victories killed your narrative until you started winning. Every time they talk, they reaffirm your gravity. You didn't ask for permission, you refused the audition. And they talk because they can't create what you became. They can only replicate your story and gossip, and even that feels hollow. They never saw the blueprint because you drew it in the dark. They looked for headlines, catchphrases, highlight reels, and they missed the hours you spent in silence. They listened for announcements as you quietly scheduled your rise. They weren't paying attention when you were stacking habits, refining your mind, chiseling your insecurities into strength. So when you stepped into the room with grace, with authority, with results, they panicked. They don't know how you pulled it off. Their mouths open, minds scramble, hearts tighten. That phrase, echoing in whispers, is your greatest compliment. It's acknowledgement that you achieved something beyond their perception, and more importantly, beyond their permission. They tried to reverse engineer your success by mimicking the surface, the socials, the image. But success isn't skin deep, it's marrow deep. And you didn't show them the torture behind your calm, the moments of breakdown you turned into breakthroughs, the nights you stayed up studying that they'd long forgotten, the mornings you woke up before the mirrors were ready. When they finally figured out the answer, didn't live in the caption, or the outfit, or the quote. It was already too late. You pulled it off in a realm they're allergic to, quiet persistence. It's where they hit the trap. They were looking for fireworks, while you built nuclear reactors in hidden labs of your mind. Every time they ask, how did they do it? You tighten your shoulders, not because you're hiding, but because they don't need to know. Their confusion is your camouflage. Let them believe you're an anomaly. Let them excuse your results by reducing it to luck, timing, fortune. They don't ask about discipline. They don't whisper about morning routines or mental rituals. They want an excuse they can consume. Meanwhile, you don't broadcast the hours you showed up when the world slept. You never offer the script. You own the secret energy that said, I won't stop until it's done. That's how you pulled it off. But why would you give them the keys? Psychology breaks this down elegantly. Humans are narrators. We need a story that fits our worldview. And if one doesn't, we discredit the outcome. That's what they're doing now. They can't digest your reality because it doesn't align with their narrative, so they question the process. It's impossible, they say. But everything impossible is just unrealized potential. You walked through the discomfort others ignore, sacrifice, rejection, physical exhaustion, and turned it into momentum. They want to see the staircase. You went through the hidden door. Now the moment you appear on the rooftop, they panic. They don't know how you got there, because you don't walk their path. They'll debate whether you faked it, or if you had help, or if it's just public relations. They'll question your authenticity. But here's the truth. You pulled it off with your invisible backbone, with habits you kept when no one was watching, with the discipline of someone who refuses weakness even when it's easier to crumble. You didn't submit to applause, you submitted to the mission. And that submission, when executed week after week, becomes radical. That's where you pulled it off, in the lone hours, the quiet trenches, the unseen transformation. Let them wonder. They'll never figure that part out. Your opponents want formula. They want predictability. But you used chaos as fertilizer. You grew in disruption, in heartbreak, in being the underdog. So by the time you rose, you were organic, unrepeatable. They can't replicate that. They can't even grasp it. How did they pull it off? Echoes because the answer isn't a hack. It's decomposition and regeneration. It's refusing to stay broken. It's deciding quietly that today's pain is tomorrow's weapon. That's how you did it. They didn't look in your scarred parts. They looked at your polish. And that's why they don't know how you pulled it off. There's a power in invisibility, in being underestimated, in slipping behind their radar. While they debated your relevance, you built gravity. While they insulted your ambition, you scaled the walls they couldn't see. Now they scrambled to reverse engineer when there was no blueprint to share. That's the venom. They relied on playbooks. You wrote a new one while they were busy mocking your cover art. They thought your silence was stagnation, it was incubation. They thought your absence was nothing, but they underestimated the force of a mind aligned with vision. That's how you pulled it off. Not by accident, by design. So let them whisper in confusion. Let them search for answers and gossip and screenshots. It doesn't matter, because while they scramble, you move. Forward, faster, stronger, more aligned. Their curiosity has become your echo chamber. They follow your energy because it's potent. They pay attention because your presence demands it. And the more they question how you did it, the more they reaffirm that you did. They can't stop talking about it because they still can't explain it. And that, my friend, is the most powerful signature of all. You pulled it off by refusing to choose convenience, by refusing to compromise, by refusing to rely on approval. You decided there was only one outcome acceptable, you growing beyond their expectations. And every day while they were busy asking how you pulled it off, you were already halfway to the next level. That's how you win silently. That's how you eclipse their curiosity with your movement. They don't know how. You don't have to tell them. Let them chase the answer. You're already onto the sequel. They still believe there must be a trick, some shortcut, a deal you struck with the devil when no one was looking, because to them pain is a punishment, not a weapon. They can't comprehend that you turned suffering into scaffolding, that you let it break you only to rebuild with sharper angles. The elegance of your evolution confuses them. They assumed that the only way to rise was to be handed wings, but you crafted yours from broken ribs and blackouts. You stitched your flight pattern from the silence of disappointment, the tension of self-restraint, and the hunger of the uninvited. You didn't pull it off overnight. You pulled it off when your nights became your battlefield, and your mornings a quiet rebellion. They mistook your stillness for defeat, your patience for uncertainty. But what you were really doing was storing power. They don't know that every fake smile you endured, every dismissive comment you swallowed, became another brick in your fortress. They don't understand that your revenge was never about retaliation. It was about reconstruction. While they plotted scenes for your downfall, you rehearsed a monologue they could never recite. You don't just walk into rooms now, you alter the atmosphere, and still they whisper, baffled, how did they do it? Because they never paid attention to what doesn't sparkle, to the ugly, painful, glorious process of becoming undeniable. You didn't need to win every argument. You didn't need to clap back, defend yourself, or prove a point. You let time speak. You let consistency roar. And while they mocked your pace, you let them exhaust their arrogance. That's what they'll never accept. That your biggest move was restraint. You didn't react, you restructured. You didn't chase validation, you built value. You weren't loud, you were louder than noise. And now they listen not because you demanded it, but because the results screamed louder than any explanation could.